of us, myself included, have gotten really good at rejecting things. I talk about love and relationships. We're really good at rejecting. Today, we want to know, what are you embracing and how is it empowering you? Hey, sweet baby. Welcome to Loving Relationships for Women of Color. I'm Candace Harper, and for several decades, I believed that my love life was supposed to be someone else's idea of perfection. My family's, the churches, the millions of romance novels that I read in high school. For most of my adult life, I've toggled between trying to be perfect or rebelling against someone else's ideals, which culminated in unsustainable, broken relationships. And finally, a relationship that was so emotionally and physically abusive that I suffered 3 miscarriages, was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and ended up losing my home. And yes, it took deep level fear for my safety and my future for me to listen to source energy, to God, the universe, trying to tell me to know and love myself first, to get crystal clear about who I am, to stop waiting for anyone else's permission and love who I want to love. And after I became the love of my life, I met my ideal partner, and we live a quiet, happy life with a house full of dogs. And he's what I wanted all along, but mostly he aligns with my values, and he's my best friend. Making such a major shift in how I experienced my love life also took years of coaching and transformation, coaching training, and years to qualify for a hypnotherapy license to be able to help other women do the same. And if there's anything that I learned, it's that growing is a lifelong process. And my mission is that we as women of color experience the joy of being seen, heard, accepted, and loved, that we refuse to settle for sham relationships, scammy marriages, or oppressive societal ideals, that we refuse to settle for anything that's not exactly what aligns with who we are. So in this season of my podcast, I'll be featuring fabulous women like yourself on their own journey of triumph, thriving, and the mastery of love. So come with me while we break cycles, move our survival mechanisms out of the way, and truly understand ourselves and our worth, and create a love life that loves us back. I want you to share this show with your friends, comment when we're live and after the show so that we can talk to you. And if you're listening later on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, write a review. Don't keep it a secret. We are starting a movement, honey. I'm Candace Harper, relationship coach and hypnotherapist, and I believe that we all deserve joyful, peaceful, abundant, fulfilling, and loving relationships. I have one. I want you to have yours too. Also, make sure to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. So it's time to get started. I cannot wait to introduce you to my guest today. I'm so excited that she was willing and open to joining me. My special guest today is Dr. Beloved, the relationship builder. And the way she pronounces it, Dr. Beloved, and we're going to talk about that as well. She calls herself the relationship builder, which I love. That's a creation title. She's an international voice of healing and reconciliation. Her advocacy work is longstanding in maximum security prisons and juvenile detention centers. She's also been a lobbyist and missionary on foreign soil, healing second-generational domestic violence, where children have been most impacted. Dr. Beloved is a survivor of both childhood sexual abuse, torture, and physical trauma. Her story, which she shared most vulnerably and eloquently on Unfiltered Stories, has received over 3.6 million views on Facebook and other social media platforms. Please be sure to check that video out when you have a chance. I will add the link to the description on this video later. But mainly, Dr. Beloved has risen above an incredibly painful past, authored 2 award-winning books, and is my very first guest for what is now season 9 of this podcast, Loving Relationships for Women of Color. Welcome, 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 Dr. Beloved. Let me bring you. Hello, beautiful.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing?
I am great. I
Yeah.
am living in my now and showing up as my best self.
Yes, honey. I love it. When you and I first sat down for our initial meeting to have this conversation, and you came on camera with this like shock of salt and pepper, and like I was like, goddess. Like so excited.
Thank you. I feel like a goddess. I've learned to embrace my gray.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I love it.
And embrace myself, which I think is most important. Most important. Yeah.
Absolutely. And part of the reason that I think, I mean, when I first saw the video on Unfiltered Stories and I was first introduced to you, just the way that you share yourself so authentically and the way that you're so open with yourself, to me, that is what I interpret as a signal of deep level healing. And that authenticity and that sharing of yourself, it just shines right through with the way that you communicate. And that is why I was so excited to get in touch with you and have you come on. So,
Well, thank you very much, Miss Candace. I greatly appreciate that.
yeah, no, you're welcome. You ready to dive into some conversation?
I am ready to dive right on in. I got on my deep diving suit, and
You do.
I'm ready to get wet. How about that? Let's get wet.
I love it. We're gonna talk about that a little bit too, because your title of your one book, part of it is "Faith for Sex." I want to. I'm gonna ask you about that later.
Yes, we brought her along. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So today, the topic of today, or sort of the theme of today, is empowering embraces, right? So, we think of embracing as like a hug, holding someone, just, bringing something in, acceptance. And right now, I personally am on a journey around unconditionality because I believe in it. Like, I believe in unconditional love. I believe in, that our life is a practice of learning how to be with what is, right? Not saying settling, but being able to be with what is, like whatever responses I need to create, all of that good stuff. So, my
Right.
first question for you that I want to ask you about and talk about, what are some things in your life right now that you are currently embracing?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Embracing being separated from my adult children. They've been with me all of my life. So I had to embrace being an absolute, unequivocal empty nester.
Yeah.
That's a different way of living when you've spent most of your life investing in little people who are now big people. Some of them are taller than you,
Yeah.
more extensively learned than you, and had their own life experiences. I will say that when my eldest, who lives in London, his senior year, he, unbeknownst to him, he thought I was kicking him out the house. But
Uh-huh.
unbeknownst to him, I was crying myself to sleep every single night,
Yeah.
knowing that a new chapter of his life was we were both having to embark upon. Life stops for no one,
Yeah.
And I cried and cried and cried and cried. Say, you just want to get rid of me. You just want to get rid of me. And finally, we had come to meeting, Sunday come to meeting moment. And I said, that's not it, son, but
Yeah.
things that you need to learn. This is my personal experience that at a certain age, a woman cannot give to a man.
Mm.
Life and another man mentors a man,
Yeah.
not a woman. She nurtures him, she takes care of him, but at a certain point in his life, he needs a man to be in his life. So
Yeah.
and I had gone through, a divorce and raising my two sons and my daughter. Now with my daughter, man, we was going for blows because
Yeah.
I was, that female energy. I'm telling you, that female energy is no joke. And
Absolutely.
it was like she was like, "I'm just as grown as you." No, you're not, chickadee. You are not. But however, we learned, and when she left the nest, embracing her growth and her maturation was a spectacular thing to see. She's a beautiful young lady, as are my sons. And
Yeah.
so that was something really difficult to embrace because women, we don't realize that sometimes we're living through our children.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're pouring all of that energy into the children when a lot of marriages fail because we're not pouring that energy into that man.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say that. And your
Absolutely.
children
And
cannot do for you what your man can.
right. This
I
is
pray
true.
not.
But I want to touch on a number of things that you said because first of all, they that whole empty nest thing, which I personally have not experienced. However, to me, from everything that's ever been shared with me about it, it literally is like you think of birds in a nest, like you got to push them out. Right?
You
That's
you
what it's.
really, really do. You really,
Yeah.
really do. And some of them are hanging on, and you don't realize how much you're hanging on
Yeah.
till just the small things show up. Oh, I was supposed to pick them up today at 3 o'clock. Well, there's no need to pick them up.
Do that anymore.
All the extra groceries that you normally would purchase, No need for purchase. I love to cook.
Yeah.
Now I'm not cooking. For whom?
Yeah.
I can eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and drink
Be
a
fine.
glass of almond milk out of my wine glass and I'm good. And so these are the little things that kind of creep up on you.
Yeah.
And if you're unprepared, they can send you in a tailspin.
Yeah, yeah. And, it makes me think of, how do we embrace? So when you say I'm embracing it, besides being able to have your peanut butter and jelly sandwich and your almond milk, emotionally, like what is the conversation? What's the dialogue with yourself that says, you know what, this is the right thing to do, or this feels good, even though your heart is like, I miss my baby.
Yeah. So the emotional aspect is now looking at things that I can do.
Yeah.
Things I may have held off, that I have the freedom and the leverage to now travel or experience different readings, or being like, I'm also an actress, so I don't have to worry about, just the little things that I don't have to worry about, and I can pour my emotional energy into other things and more into myself. Am
Mm.
I really as whole as I think I am?
Mm.
Am I as happy as I think that I am?
Yeah.
A lot of times we can cover up happiness. We can mask happiness with dutifulness.
Yeah.
I'm being busy. Busy doesn't always equate happiness. It
Yeah.
just means you're being busy.
Or even productivity, right?
Productivity, exactly. And so, what
Mm.
am my thing as a believer for me is that if I am not being productive, am I really fulfilling the gospel for my life?
Mm.
Some people just go, I'm child, I'm going to church, I'm going.
Couldn't help but.
But are you being productive? Are you reproducing after the God kind?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that. Now, the other thing that you said earlier that I want to touch on, because it really speaks to the theme of my book, which is about the mother-daughter relationship. And I told you that the title is I'm Not Mad, but She's Still Crazy. And it's about healing that relationship from the daughter's end of it, right?
Yes.
And I know just from your sharing, your original sharing of your story, that, there's a lot of energy around the mother relationship. And you and I talked about that, the exaltation of mothers, and, what it means to be a Black mother, and what it means to be the daughter of a Black mother, and all of that. How did that inform, when you were going back and forth with your daughter? And I know that that's like, just from my own experiences with it, that can be such a high energy thing. How did all of that inform how you made the transition with having her out as opposed to with your son?
My own, with my sons, or with my own mother-daughter experience. First of all, with my own mom, I never felt safe or
Mm.
or affirmed or acknowledged or encouraged to be my best self. With my own daughter, I felt like, wow, what will my life be without her?
Yeah.
What is my life going to look like without her being present? And how do I respect her maturation, her becoming, and finding out things on her own separate from me? And so that's the challenge of being a mother,
Yeah.
especially with daughters, because you want to be there to continue to guide and be hands on and everything. And there's areas of their lives, just like with your sons, but especially with your daughters, that you're going to just have to trust
Yeah.
that they got the lesson, so the lesson won't get them. you
Yeah.
know and that was a little tricky. It was moment by moment. I can't throw a blanket on it. It was situation by situation. I remember her first time telling me that she wanted to have sex.
Mm.
That
How
was
old
fourth.
was she? How old was she?
That was fourth grade. Fourth grade.
Oh,
It was a
woo!
boy. She came home, and I've always been open because of my own situation. I've always tried to leave an open door for my children.
Mm.
And so I'm sitting at the computer, and she says, "Mom, there's a boy named so and so, and I'm attracted to him. I think I want to have sex with him."
Oh,
And I almost fell from the desk.
I'm
I
sure.
said, Lord
I'm
Jesus.
sure.
So I got myself together, woosah,
Yeah.
and I went over to her and I said, "First of all, I want to tell you that sex is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, and it feels absolutely incredible." I said, "But you want to do it with the right frame of mind."
Yeah.
I took her to the scriptures of what I believe is true, that our bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit. I spoke that to her. I said, and the thing about sex is that once you start, baby, it's gonna be hard to stop.
Yeah, there's no
All the
going
prayer,
back.
all, and you can anoint all you want, but once that you get that goody goody, it's gonna be hard to stop. So I told her that her body was a temple of the Holy Spirit, that I believe that sex was assigned to marriage and a covenant relationship. However, if at any point on your journey you feel like you are emotionally ready to make that next step, just come to me like you did today. And I thank you for trusting me enough. See, because when you really trust someone, you can tell them the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I
Yeah.
said, I thank you so much for trusting mommy to come to me and tell me. But remember it, at any point you feel like you're ready to do that, come to me first and we can have a conversation. And she was like, oh, okay. And went back to reading books and
Yeah.
kept until she got married.
Yeah. Like you
You know, and
diffused
so
all of
because
the.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
like a great victory for her because I gave her the tools to take ownership over her body and her mind.
Yeah.
And too many times in sexual situations, we are allowing someone else to lead and guide us in
Hmm.
terms of what we want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I did.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is that what you gave her was a rite of passage, and I think that that is something that we also struggle with because we don't often know how to do that. I don't necessarily think that mothers always know how to do that, and I think giving her autonomy and individuality and embracing, accepting, right, which is what we're all about. And what I want to, I guess, dive into based on your personal story that you tell about. Undergoing child sexual abuse and things like that. What do you think was, and I know that you're a very spiritual person, I know that you're very connected to God, but what do you think was the sort of thing that had you um, get into a place where you started to accept and understand what you had experienced in a way that you could alchemize it? Because what I often find with clients and people that I talk to is that that trauma is so untouchable, that the idea of forgiving is so untouchable, being able to move on from it, it's like they don't even want to talk about it when it's a raw wound, right? So what do you feel was the impetus for you to begin to say, this is what I experienced, but I'm going to alchemize it? Because that's what I see in you, is like an alchemization of hard times, right?
I had to separate. First of all, I had to come to grips with the fact that God didn't do this to me.
Yeah. Oh,
This
wow.
this was not God's plan for my life.
Yeah.
Yes, God can use all things. All things can be used for the greater good. But this was not something that even I did to myself. It was done to me.
Yeah.
Right. And it was the stealing away of my virginity. It was the stealing away of my power and ownership of my body. But also through my relationship with God, I learned I have a voice.
Yeah.
And I always had a voice. And that I grew up with people who were very vocal and very loud. I grew up in New York, so we were very loud, vocal. And
Yeah.
yeah, I got you. We
Yeah.
the posture. And so I also realized that sex is a beautiful thing, and that because I've had some of the most powerful orgasms in the world. So I know that
I love it.
I know. So y'all church folk, y'all just act like y'all can't
Just
handle
close
it.
your ears.
All right. When I wrote the book Love, Marriage, and Faith for Sex, they said, did you mean to say faith for sex or faith and sex? No, I said, I meant to say faith for sex.
Yeah.
Because when you are in an adult relationship, people have their own minds and individualities. And sometimes you don't always agree.
Yeah.
But you're going to need some faith for sex if you're going to continue to have sex with someone that you've had an all out, tug of war with.
Yeah.
But you still have to maintain that intimacy and that connectiveness. So for me, taking ownership of my body, that my
Mhm.
body was a beautiful place. It was not an ugly place.
Yeah.
My mind is a beautiful place. And standing up in that, my creativity and all of that. Yeah, that's why I was able to evolve out of that place of pain and looking at sex as a painful thing. Sex in and of itself didn't do anything to me.
Yeah.
The person weaponized sex.
Yeah.
My stepfather weaponized sex against me. But sex in and of itself did nothing to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And it's just to experience it that way, there's a blessing in, because I'm a big believer in, it's our thoughts and beliefs that actually dictate our experience, right? And then some people will be like, well, if someone victimizes you, you can't help but have a victim response, or you can't help but be hurt. And it's not that we should not be hurt, but what I'm hearing when you share is that I've dealt with the hurt, I've been through the hurt, I processed the hurt, I allowed myself to be hurt,
Yes.
and then let the hurt go about its business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was a spiritual care coordinator for hospice for many years. Do I deny that I'm grieving? No, I grieved over the loss of my virginity. I wondered what that would have been like for me to not be predisposed to sex at a young age. But at some point, you have to take off your mourning clothes.
Yeah.
At some point, you have to take off your mourning clothes and rise like the morning of a new day.
Yeah.
And I am determined. I am hell bent on rising like the morning of a new day and walking that out and fulfilling that aspect of my life.
Wow.
Yeah, yes. I'm woman. Hear me roar. I'm right. I'm every
woman. It's all in you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I want to acknowledge, because I have a friend from LinkedIn who is commenting, Minister Maddie Cheatham. She is enjoying the conversation and wanting to get involved as well. And she said that she's embracing being an unapologetic woman. Yes, honey. She said, God validates me. I do not need anyone's approval. I love that.
I completely concur. Even with my body, as a young person, I was skinny. I was a young person. I was much skinnier.
Right.
Right. But after three children, menopause and all the things and surgeries that your body undergoes through the processes of life, I love having big breasts.
Yeah.
I do. I love having big hips. I do. The only thing I wish I could get rid of a little bit of the stomach, but the right man, he good with that. He can ride it like a roller coaster and have no complaints. You understand what I'm saying? There are men, like, I love oxtails, and I like men that look and taste and feel like oxtails. So, I love my body. I'm not mad with her. I talk to her. I talk to my body. I talk to my scars. I talk to my hair. I thank you for being so pretty. Thank you for being healthy. I talk to my smile. I talk to me. Why can't I talk to me? I can talk to everyone else. Why can't I talk to me first? So I think that is premier in having loving relationships, especially with women of color. When you think just 2 years ago in Virginia, in the DMV, they were still deciding if they were going to pass a law. If Black people can wear their hair in the natural state,
insane.
How can you legalize hair that's growing out of my scalp?
Yeah.
Tell me if it's legal or illegal. It doesn't make sense.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And I think that what you're talking about is so important, that self-appreciation, and not in a, like the way you're describing it, it's not that narcissistic self-appreciation, that we see so often, like, I'm a bad bee and da-da-da-da. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's not that. Right? It's that unconditionality. It's that finding that love for all of it, no matter what, the scars, the extra stuff, and all of that stuff, the way that you're describing it. I talk about that practice of unconditionality with ourselves first, right? And Absolutely. It leads into my next question. Your favorite thing about being a woman of color. Now, you already mentioned your breasts and hips and all of that.
I think the ability to give life as a woman of color, just to give life, not just through reproduction or sex, but through our words. One of the things I say is the ability to master our mouths.
Yeah.
To master what we're saying and to really lean into it before we say it. Now that takes intentionality. Yeah. When you understand that life and death is in the power of the tongue, you're not quick to respond. You're not quick to react, but you think about it because you understand, as a woman of my ancestry, right? And the historical reference of me is that everything that came on the earth came through a brown woman with big hips.
Right.
Right. Then you understand, I got power.
Yeah.
I'm relevant. And what I say will come to pass.
Yeah.
Simply by me speaking it. Okay. And so I have learned not to be so, I guess angry with my words, or
Yeah.
violent with my words, or just using my intellect to harm people.
Yeah.
Because when you're a creative, and I'm a creative, you can come up with stuff, honey. You can just walk off the fly and rip a person to pieces. But I
Yeah.
understand that I'm a life giver, so I'm watching over my words. I'm
Yeah.
watching over it. My words are sacred, just as my body is sacred. My words are sacred. And
Mhm.
also the loving of my hair.
Yeah.
We can get back to that.
Yeah.
The loving of my hair, because I was that little girl who sat every Saturday with my neck being burnt with Dixie
Me
Pete
too.
and burnt
And
my
the hot
grease
coffee
and dags and that
and the
straight
smoke.
like the whole house
Yes.
stinking. But you
Yes.
just got to get it pressed, and I always had really, really thick hair.
Yeah.
So it was almost a traumatic experience in dealing with, the whole thing. And then from there, using perm, and my head looked like a Holocaust because I done left it there for an hour and
From
I
the
got,
burns.
but embracing,
Yes.
you know what I'm talking, all of
I
us.
do. I do. I do. And it's funny that you're even mentioning that. You talk about that because that is, and I talk about this in a lot of the stuff I write about. I always say I go through seasons of bald because I actually in my adulthood have lost all my hair. I wear wigs and things like that. And then sometimes I'll just wear it completely bald. It varies, depends on my mood. But
Yeah.
hair for me, my life's journey, and I think for so many of us, is representative of how we feel about ourselves, what we're
Yes.
going through emotionally, the health
Absolutely.
of it, like, what we're eating, how we're taking care of ourselves. Like, it really means so much, not just because of what we want to look like, but because it is, like you said, it's part of our generational pathology. The
It
fact that
is.
they're talking about legalizing it or not legalizing it, it just goes to show you that, as women of color, there are things about us that are so powerful, like you said, our word included, the way that we look, how we present ourselves, they're so powerful because they are such an expression of us,
Such an
right?
expression of us. When we think about it, from a spiritual perspective, our natural hair acts as a antenna,
Yeah.
literally pulls energy into our hair,
Yeah.
and into our bodies and into our minds. I have experienced my hair not looking dark and lovely, but dark and baldy. uh,
Yeah.
just again, because we're trying to live up to this image
Yeah.
of what it is a black woman supposed to look like, what is a woman, period, supposed to look like. I think self-love is imperious. If
Yeah.
you don't love yourself, it's going to be very difficult for you to be in loving relationships with other people, be it a man or a friend or sister or a cousin or a neighbor. If you're not sure of yourself, how do you put the onus on someone else and to love you properly?
Yeah.
To love, to give the love, and to express to you what's authentic when you don't know who your authentic self is. I
Yeah.
finally got grown.
Yeah.
I'm grown now. I didn't know when that day was coming, but goodness,
Yeah.
I'm grown now. And I
Yeah.
like being grown. I like taking on the responsibility of knowing,
Yeah.
of knowing. And what I don't know, I can remember as a little girl. Of course, I didn't live with my biological dad, but when I would speak to him, he would say things. I would ask him how to spell words, and he
Mm.
would say, "You're a smart girl.
Mm.
You need a thesaurus and you need a dictionary." And I
Mm.
would say, "But Daddy, if I'm looking for words that I cannot spell," he said, "You're a smart girl. You'll figure it out."
Yeah.
And so, we have to be intentional. We have to be deliberate and do our due diligence and becoming our best selves possible.
Yeah.
And that might not be, a fro might not be your best self.
Yeah.
A wig may be your best self. Weave may be your best. Braids a bald head may be your best self. But if you are feeling comfortable and loved and in your total self and walking that out, go for it. That's
Right.
how I look at it. Go for it.
Yeah.
I have a chapter in my book called "Just It's All About Hair in Love, Marriage, and
Mhm.
Faith with Sex," because you got to deal with hair. Don't touch my hair. Get some, but
Right. It's true. Yeah. And it's funny because it makes me think of times when I've ever, been intimate with someone and I was completely bald, the difference in the experience of whether I'm wearing hair or not. It's a
you
big
know what I'm
difference when
talking about.
you.
There's a freedom. There is a freedom, honey. my thing is, I'm an all natural, so a sister like to holler.
Yeah.
So we gotta have some space, we gotta have some room, we can't let nobody else in there. That's another thing about the healthiness of being an empty nester,
Yeah.
and
You
I
can
do
holler.
support, again, sex within marriage. I know that's not for everyone. People look at covenant from a different purview. Everyone doesn't look at it the same. But
Yeah.
honey, that natural hair and not having to worry about that wig and sweating out that weave, ooh, you
It
can
does
get
make a difference.
it's a honey, freedom is coming.
I love
Yes,
it.
absolutely. But even in that, I find that we don't even know how to be free with that, to
Yeah.
just to be able to say, I think giving my daughter, if I can go back to that, giving her the revelation that sex is a beautiful thing despite what happened to me.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we take that trauma and we pass it down. Don't do that, it's ugly. No. And it's not a thing. He doesn't have a thing, he has a penis. You
Yeah.
have a vagina with a clitoris. It's
Yeah.
not a thing, it's not an apple, it's not a pocketbook, it's not a banana.
Right?
It's
Not a
let's just
hoo-ha. It's
right.
not an eggplant.
As I yeah, Ayala would say, let's call a thing. Let's say
Right?
what exactly what it is. And so, in giving her that knowledge, my mom says this is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That it's a great thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing that connects you to the person that you love,
Yeah.
and that it's going to be hard to break off. I want to say that. That sounds like it's something really super special. Let
Yeah.
me say, you get what I mean? But so many
Yeah.
fractured and broken women don't even value themselves. And even men who've been violated, they don't value themselves. That's why you got men with 8 baby mamas and
Yeah.
all over the place, and they have no relationship with that child or that mother because someone didn't express to them how sacred and valuable they
Yes.
were.
Sacred. That's the word. Sacred.
Sacred. That
Yeah.
is a sacred thing.
But I think that
So,
that is also the cycle that we are here to break, because I feel like
yes.
generations before us are still, of that mentality that there is something that is bad. Like you were saying earlier, that sex itself is not bad. Someone can weaponize it against you, but that knowing that it's a beautiful thing and imparting in younger generations and even in ourselves, because I have so much internalized misogyny and so much internalized, like, sexual, um, that there's sin in it, that it's wrong, that there's something wrong with it, that I have to be in practice of
Yeah.
knowing that it's okay to have
Right. You have to
pleasure.
unpack all of that. You have to
Yeah.
that it's really okay. You'll be surprised, and you would really be surprised that how many women in Christendom are mad at me for writing this book. They're
Yeah.
like, how can
I
you
wouldn't be
just
surprised.
openly say love, marriage, and faith for sex,
Yeah.
and not without you feeling responsible for people who are now wanting to venture and have sex? Baby, I don't know what's wrong with you. I've been through some stuff. And if
Right.
anybody ought to be mad, it ought to be me. But
Yeah.
sex ain't never done nothing for me but make me feel good. And,
Yeah.
in a healthy, loving relationship. Let me
Yeah.
emphasize that. But a lot of them, even as wives in sacred covenant, are ashamed that the fact that they love sex.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing is that a lot of them were sexually active prior to marriage. And now that they have licensure to have sex, they don't have sex.
It's not as interesting
It's
anymore.
not as I'm not
Because
interested.
that's the thing. I think that what we get confused when we say sacred, what we get confused about is we think sacred in terms of morally good, as opposed to sacred as in something that we can that we can create, right? Like, to me, that's sacredness. What I can create, if I
Right,
have honor
right.
and acknowledgement,
Exactly.
it's sacred, right? But
Exactly.
sacred doesn't necessarily mean morally good. It's what I choose to create. Like, if I approach it in a way that it has a specialness to it, because I'm creating it, I'm having it be what I want it to be, that's what makes
Exactly.
it sacred.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
uh like for me, drinking out of a wine glass is a sacred thing.
Yeah.
I because I because I'm making this moment. an honorable moment, a memorable moment. That's what makes something sacred,
Yeah.
right? And so, and brings it honor and brings it a place of esteem. I think people, again, a lot of women, when we're talking about women of color and loving themselves, a lot of them took on the mindset, a slave mindset, even if you
Yeah.
will, or dutiful mindset, almost like in color passer, massa this. They look at their bodies as belonging to someone
Someone
else. But when
else.
you understand that you have the power to control orgasm, come
Yeah.
on now, and
Right.
make it with or without a partner, then you look at it differently. Now, do I believe you can have I always say this, you can have an orgasm without a partner, but you can't have covenant without a
Mm,
partner.
Now
And
talk about that.
that's what makes it sacred.
Talk about
That's what
that
makes it
covenant.
sacred.
When
Covenant.
you say covenant, you cannot have covenant without a partner. Talk about that.
You cannot have covenant without a partner, someone that is walking in cadence with you, someone
Mm,
that is in agreement. You have the same value system, the same
yeah.
belief system, the same even ritual, spiritual forms of worship. Everybody doesn't. I have a value system of that. No, I'm not going to sleep with. I'm a grown woman. I can sleep with anybody I want to, but I'm not doing that because
Yeah.
for me, my values are that I was conditioned and created for a man,
Mm,
to love a man and to receive the love of a man. So covenant for me is a vow
mhm.
before me and that person and before God. And
Yeah.
so, I've never been a person who was prone to cheating
Yeah.
because I believe, even this is prior to marriage, I believe that commitment is sacred and it should be honored. And
Yeah.
so we make covenant the things that are not reciprocal. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing about covenant. Covenant is about reciprocity.
Yeah.
That you're not just giving, but you're also receiving.
It's an agreement, right? It's like it's a
Agreement.
joining, it's an
It's
agreement.
a contract. It's
Yeah.
a contract. It's an agreement. And a lot of times we are making, and I love that you brought this question up. We're making covenants and contracts and agreements with things that cannot respond to us
Right.
in the same
As
way that.
equal. Right. Too
So,
often.
so how is that really a covenant?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
have people that are in bondage, even in marriage, bondage, even at their workplace.
Yep.
We got people watching right now that they will go back. They're in bondage to their job. That's not a healthy, loving relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're giving and you're pouring yourself out. You're pouring your intellect, you're pouring your energy, you're pouring your creativity into something that has no ability
Yeah.
to give back to you.
To give back to you.
That is not love.
It needs to be cyclical, right? Like our
Right.
abundance is, yeah.
Absolutely. No reciprocity. So I look for reciprocal relationships. If
Yeah.
I find that I'm not able to give and to receive equally, or let me define equally, maybe not at the same moment, but the overall pervasiveness of this relationship is that I'm never empty in being in this relationship.
Yeah.
That at some point, there is a strong potential and possibility that I'm going to get fulfillment out of this.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes people angry and regretful and resentful at people's presence and even their need of them, because there's nothing being given back.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that, not funny, ha funny, but like I think a lot about what that means because I'm often explaining to clients how it's not something to look like, not that we don't look for reciprocity. We don't become attached to reciprocity. We look for where we're feeling depletion in a relationship. It's not about, oh, he need to give me this and pay for this and do that. He ain't doing that. And it's not that. It's not a search for like looking for the actions that he does or your partner does, whatever gender your partner is. It's, am I feeling depleted by what I'm bringing to this relationship? Does it deplete me? And if that is the case, we can't force it out of somebody, right? It's like,
Right. You can't. It's
yeah,
like looking for 64 ounces in a container that only holds 16.
right.
Why would you do that? Because
Yeah.
there's going to be major spillage.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times we're doing this and we're trying to force relationships that are just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And if you know, there used to be a song back in my day, if it don't fit, don't force
Don't
it,
push
just relax and let it go.
it. I
You
remember.
know, you remember that song? So
Yes.
I've learned that. I've learned that anything that is not flowing in the current and
Mm.
it's not easy, not to say you don't have to put any work in it, that might not be the road that I need to be going down. That might
Yeah.
be not be the relationship that I need to be pursuing, because it's causing me more grief than it is
Yes.
happiness.
Yeah.
And if you're constantly frustrated and angry and oh my and exasperated, baby,
Well,
why are
well,
you in this relationship?
but Dr. Beloved, like, why have we bought into that love has to be like that? Like, I feel like so many of us, and I always talk about the ease, like, look for the ease, sink into the ease, enjoy the pleasure. Why have we bought into that it has to be struggle, that I got to make this man do something, or I've got to have this relationship be this way? Or even there was somebody on TikTok the other day that was like, I know love is hard. And it's like, that's a belief system. Like, where did that
That's
come
the
from?
belief. But for us as the diaspora in America, that's we believe that everything has to come through suffering and
Yeah,
toil and suffering and toil. And it's even put upon us, people of other persuasions will say, well, Black women know how to suffer. So you don't have to treat them as nicely as you treat the other people, because
yeah.
they you can cheat on them because they can take a licking and keep on ticking. I didn't know I was but and so there is a belief system
Yeah.
that if he's not beating on me, if he's not cheating on me, if he is not responding to me in a loving way, then that means who I just got to work a little bit
Make it
harder.
happen.
Ooh, we gonna make not me.
Yeah.
I used to be that person, so I
Yeah.
know what that looks like. I know what that looks like. My stepfather's one of his friends and he and my mom would fight. His friend would say, "Oh, he hits your mom because he loves her. She a
Mm.
man that love a woman. He beat her real good." I would say, "This is crazy.
Yeah.
This is madness." Even in my generation, when I was in my marriage and it was 10 solid years of abuse, almost
Mm.
10 solid years of abuse. I had friends in the church and out of the church, both male and female, that said to me, my husband hits me, I hit him back.
Uh-uh.
So what kind of mindset is that?
Yeah.
That the man that I'm giving my body to, that I'm loving, that I'm spending time with, that I'm in covenant with, that at some point I need to fight him,
Yeah.
not fight for him or fight with him, but I need to put up my dukes and fight him.
Yeah.
And you normalize that,
Yeah.
and we see it on television, we see it in media, we see it everywhere. I know, I think sometimes that social media has done us a disservice.
Yeah.
It's just a pandemic of evil. Sometimes you have to just disconnect
Yeah.
and regroup. But yeah, I think when I see a person that speaks of being beaten or harmed as healthy or normal, that
Mm.
person is broken.
Yeah.
There is brokenness there. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier about how, our word and how we create with our word. And when we speak those words of like this, he beats me because he loves me. Love is struggle. This is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way it was for my mother. This is all I know. Like, we speak it into existence. We speak it into our
We
lives.
really do. Is a lot of times we're speaking it into our future.
Yeah.
We don't even realize that there is an end to that word. Like there's a period or an explanation point or question mark at the end of that sentence.
Yeah.
Whatever you're declaring is what you're going to see eventually. So
Yeah.
I'm constantly saying, I have a love. My husband loves me. He
Yeah.
loves me deeply. He cares for me. He thinks about me. I speak like that because I believe that. And I have seen the power and the manifestation of my words in my life, in my children's life,
Yeah.
that my children and my children's children would be blessed. And
Yeah.
I've seen it in my children's life. And I hope whoever's listening that they would begin to start the task and the responsibility of creating beautiful things, loving things, that are full with abundance and prosperity, and understand that intelligent source is waiting on your words. The
Yes.
angels are waiting on your words. Infinite intelligence and power is waiting for you to get to become that co-creator that
Yeah.
he can look down and say, "Ooh, that's good." You
Yeah.
know, and that's very good. And
Yeah.
so we have to just get out of that. But I will say this, Candace, when you begin to walk like this and talk like this, you don't mean to create enemies.
Yeah.
You don't mean to lose relationships, but they happen.
Yeah.
They happen because people, I find, are more comfortable with pain
Yeah.
than they are with peace.
Absolutely.
If hell ain't being raised, baby, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
You ain't gossiping. No, I don't want to talk about anything that doesn't pertain to me.
Yeah.
I talk with you later. Well, you're gonna have to talk with me later.
Right.
And
Right.
later and
Later and later and later.
because I don't have space.
Yeah.
The love in me, the light in me doesn't have space for gossip. It
Yeah.
doesn't have space to celebrate pain and demise of another person.
Yeah.
They're usually good to say, don't say anything at all. And
Yeah.
sometimes silence is the answer.
Yeah. Absolutely, 100%. And I love what you're pointing at too, just, how, and because I actually think of a particular friend who I still consider someone that I love very, very much, but had to release from my life because of that, uh, just an unwillingness to let go and see anything different as far as what we
Yeah,
could talk about, how we could connect, and what's possible around who we can be in each other's space. Because sometimes we're so bonded in the thoughts that we have about others and the things
yeah,
that distract us from
yeah.
actually healing and taking care of ourselves. We're so bonded in it that we can't even see it,
We can't.
right?
We know it's the fabric of us.
Yeah,
It's a part of our fabric. It's a part of our persona, and we don't even know that we're being ugly, or we don't even call it gossip. I want to share. That's another word for it. Let me share something with you. And I found in my own life that as I begin to emerge from my pain and come to this new place in my life, the only place that people could relate to me is with through my pain.
yeah,
And it was sad that they didn't even see me beyond pain.
yeah.
And that's the only place that they could see and relate to me is in my pain.
That's where they resonated. But here's the thing about that, what you're pointing to, and I think for so many of us, back to this, what we're embracing and creating loving relationships is that so many of us are out there keeping each other from loving relationships because we want you to be single, miserable girl with us, or we
Woo,
want you to be mad at your husband with us.
my God.
That's our bonding group, right? And you mentioned social media earlier and about how that's, it's basically a dumpster fire of, I'm somebody who works on my transformation. I'm someone who focuses on, thinking the thoughts that are actually going to have me create what I want to create in my life. And give me an hour on TikTok and my relationship that I love and adore, I'll start to question because I've been sitting there watching all these women and I listen to them because a lot of times they're my clients. But all these women who are talking about how, men are trash and this is that,
Oh
and,
my God.
forget
And
about it. Is
it's so true. It's like they have made a covenant
yes,
and a
it's a
commitment
covenant.
to toxicity and trauma.
Yeah,
And because they understand and they don't because they understand that to some degree this is all that I know, but if what happens to me if I let go of trauma?
yeah,
Who am I without trauma?
yeah.
Who am I without pain?
Who do I end up having to be if I don't have that story?
Yes. And
Right?
so
Scary.
yes, and I don't mean to be overtly spiritual, but I'm just going to be myself.
Be yourself.
There's a scripture, a story, a narrative in the Bible that says that when the house is swept clean, right?
Mm.
And if you don't fill that house with love, with word, with peace, with grace, with kindness, with virtue, 7 more demons come back that are worse than the 7 that you
That was
swept out.
there.
And I'm like, that's some work, child. Now
That's
that's
right.
really some work. And,
Right.
and I made up in my mind, I just am not going to be that person
Yeah.
that you can only relate to me in my pain and
Yeah.
almost mad at me for being victorious
Yeah.
and standing up straight. And my posture is no longer bent. And I'm even refuting some of the things that I used to allow you to say to me. You can't call me that no more. No,
Yeah.
no, we're not going, no, no, no. I'm not receiving that.
Yeah.
As my daughter would say, I will not support that.
I love
I will
that.
not support. I can't. And so I get what you're saying. I have a limited amount of time that I'm spending on social media.
Yeah.
And usually when I post on social media, it's early in the morning
Yeah.
before anybody gets up.
It's up.
I'm posting and I'm out
Yeah.
because I do not want to interact with all of that. I'll tell you this too. I was at a dinner party a few years back at a dear friend's house. It was basically couples. I was there solo.
Mhm.
And we were talking about what would you do if your car broke down
Mhm.
and you had a partner.
Yeah.
I said, well, for me, the first thing I would do is I'm gonna call my husband. I'm gonna
Yeah.
call my husband and say, babe, what should I do? Should I leave the vehicle here, get an Uber, or you coming to pick me up? Do I call? And they were flabbergasted. They
Mm.
were like, beloved, you are too modern for such an antiquated thought. I said,
Mm.
what are you talking about? You gonna call a man first? I'm gonna call my brother. I'm gonna call my daddy. I said, and that's why you don't got a good relationship. And there was a man there, and I swear it was a man there. He was there with his woman. They lived together, they were engaged. He said, that's the very reason why. And it just spilled out of me. He said, that's why we're not gonna be able to be together. He
Mm.
said, because your first thought is another man. Your first thought
Mm.
is, I don't need a man. I
Yeah.
can do it myself. He said, and that's how we live out our relationship. Every time I try to love you, every time I try to be there for you, you are constantly telling me, I don't need a man.
Yeah.
And so you will never, ever, ever hear beloved say, I don't need a man.
Yeah.
I need a man. I want a man. I desire men. They're the only perfect partner, suitable partner for me. And I love men. Now I have to say this. Men are not always as nice to me or all my sisters or we are to them. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that's unresolved trauma, unresolved pain, if that's modeled behavior, but I think men can be better men.
Oh yeah.
Just like
Definitely.
we can be better, all of us can be better human beings.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole thing of that tearing down men, I can't,
Yeah, I mean, it's so futile, and it's such it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? But I
is.
also think too, there are men out there that are just as focused on their growth, their transformation, and I've met them in the spaces that I've been around transformation, and they are out there wanting to grow, wanting to know, wanting to be better. And I always say with women, like our task is to stay on task, to stay focused on our own growth. Because when we say we want a man who's transformed and evolved and who's going to treat us well, it's so important to just focus on being evolved and being
I
in relationship with ourselves,
I
representing what it is we want.
I
Right?
totally agree. I have experienced, and I've had guys to say this many years before. They said, you was just so busy and doing this and doing that, but then when we got together, you stopped.
Mm.
And you focus all of your energy on me
Like,
and the
no.
very thing that I was attracted to, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so you're absolutely right. If we stay in that healthy trajectory of loving self, not being narcissistic, not being selfish, but loving self, setting goals, completing goals,
Yeah.
mounting up like wings on as an eagle, right? I think we will draw. I know. I'm gonna stop. Now I think we will draw to us the suitable mate, the
Yeah. And
suitable friendships.
the best in the mate
The
too, because the same man
yes,
who can treat one woman beautifully can treat another woman badly. And I'm not saying we're responsible for how they behave, but in order to attract the best in others, whether no matter what gender they are, we want to be the best in ourselves. That's why I always
I,
tell women, stop looking for that they need to do stuff. Because there was a whole thread the other day. There's a coach that's on TikTok and she's talking about how, do the men even bother? Are they even bothering to grow? It's like, stop worrying about them. It's like little kids on the playground. Don't worry about whether they got more sandwiches than you or if they're doing it. You focus on you. And
you
what you will
focus on
attract
you.
is that in other people.
I agree. And, and
Yeah.
and even the relationships that did not work out, bless those people. God
Yes.
bless you. I salute the divinity in you.
Bless
I
you on
wish
your way.
right. I bless you. I hope everything works out. I don't have time to waste my energy and my mental space and real estate with being angry and
Yeah.
unforgiving. People ask me often, well, have you forgiven your parents? I Of course I've forgiven other people who have harmed me. I forgive my siblings. I don't have time to stay in a cycle of unforgiveness
Right.
and vindication and vengeance. And you know I got other things I'm doing. Since October, I've written 3 books. I'm
Yeah.
excited about those books. I'm excited about going on my book tour. I'm excited about Love, Marriage, and Faith for Sex. I'm excited out of my soul. This book is going to transform people's lives. That's where my focus is. And
Yeah.
so I have very limited listening time for foolery.
Yeah.
If either you're going to fix it or let it go.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about it. I
100%.
and I know that sometimes, when you get on topics, you can get down in it and you can pull up your resume on it. We all do it,
Yeah.
but we have to practice, 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 practice about saying, you know what, I'm not going to live there. I
Yeah.
will not reside there. I will not plant a tree in that broken place. I
Yeah.
will not do it. I will not do it.
Dr. Beloved, I feel like we could go on and on all day. I feel like we could have days of conversation.
Absolutely.
I do want, let's see, what do we look? It's about 2 o'clock right now. I see Benita says she's been trying to get on for the last 37 minutes and she finally got on. I do want to, let's do this. I want to do one more question and then we'll do final thoughts. And then I want you to you talked a little bit about your books, but where people can get them and all of that
Absolutely.
stuff, tell us about each one.
Very good.
One more question for you. How do you know that you are being loved?
Ooh, when I feel safe,
Mm,
and when I'm smiling,
yeah.
um, when I feel like I'm at home, home sweet home. I feel love when I'm with somebody and I feel like I want to curl up my feet
Yeah.
or I'm being giddy like a 6-year-old and I'm just smiling till my face is hurting and my
Yeah.
neck is sore.
Mm,
Being loved also speaks to being loving.
mm,
You have to have the two go together.
yeah.
Being loving and being loved go together. And so, because I really do love myself, I know what being loving looks like. I
Yeah.
know what it feels like. I'm a sapiosexual person.
Yeah.
So,
Like the
I can
smoke.
have conversations with men that blow my mind. And I'm like, that is my
Right?
so intelligence is important to me. When I'm with someone that I can have an intellectual conversation with and intellectually academically, emotionally, spiritually,
Yeah.
I know that I'm being loved because being loved looks different to different people in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That was beautiful. And I want to encourage everybody who's listening, like get into that. Get into understanding how you know you're being loved and what
Yeah.
that looks like for you. I think that a lot of times we don't get clear on that, right? And we do, like
Yeah.
you were talking about earlier, just kind of giving, the energy to anybody. And it's really important to have
Yeah.
a strong sense
If
of
I'm
that,
laughing till I'm about to wet myself, I am being loved, honey.
right?
If I'm dancing in the middle of Ross or Publix when that song comes on, I'm
I
being
do that
loved.
too.
And what I realized in my life, Candace, that there were love moments that I was passing up,
Yeah.
waiting for the big love moment when love was all around me.
Yeah.
Love was in the grass and being at the park and sitting by the lake. Love was reading a book, or love was loving other people or giving service at the food bank or
Yeah.
praying for that was I was passing up moments of loving moments for
Yeah.
and all we have is our now.
Yeah.
So the question is, what are you doing now with your loving moment as a woman of color?
100%. Oh, I love that question. That's actually a question and a journal prompt. For my ladies that
Yes,
are listening, what are you doing now? Say it again, as a woman of color with your loving moments, right?
right. What are you doing now with your loving moments?
Yeah.
Don't pass up your opportunity to love, because love is love is love. And every opportunity is an opportunity.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much, Dr. Beloved. You know
Yes.
that you are going to be a semi-regular guest. You know you're going to have
Okay.
to come back. I don't know like the full incarnation of this, if this is going to be a weekly thing, how I'm going to do it just yet. I know the God, the universe is figuring all that out for me right now, but you are on my list, honey.
Thank you. Thank
Yes, you are like
you.
my little 3-year-old yogi used to say, you are mine. You're in the folds.
All right. In the phone.
Yes.
Wakanda forever.
Wakanda forever. You're gonna have to come on again. I see that Tanya, Renita, and Jamelia. Thank you guys for being here. Minister Maddie was here earlier. Anybody else who came in and has been listening, if you just caught the tail end, go back because I am gonna make sure to repost and you'll be able to watch the recording and interact with us with the recordings as well because
Absolutely.
Dr. Beloved will have access, I'll have access, we'll respond to you and interact with you if you have any questions or anything you want to share. And thank you, Jamelia. She says, what a great conversation. This was great. Tanya says, I
Oh,
love this. Thank you so much,
wonderful.
goddesses.
Wonderful. So
Yeah.
I know we talked about the books. I'd like to
Yes.
get into that. So Love, Marriage, and Faith for Sex is available on my website at beloveddiller.com. It's
Okay.
also, you can go online and order it at Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. I will be at Barnes and Nobles Augusta Mall September the 9th.
Okay.
I'll be there, as well as my new book, Out of My Soul. That's on the same platforms. And I do offer counseling for those who have experienced sexual abuse, or you're trying to come out of domestic violence situation. I offer counseling. My social media platforms are Beloved Dillard on Facebook, Beloved's World on Instagram, and Beloved Dillard on TikTok and LinkedIn.
Yes.
So I'm available for speaking engagements, for counseling, for prayer, and this is what I do for a living. This is
Yeah.
me. This is Beloved.
I love it. So all of those links and all of that information, I'm going to make sure to put in the description. So when you
Absolutely.
have a chance, just
Thank you
email
so
me that
much.
list so that everybody who watches and listens can get all of those links.
Wonderful. I
Yeah.
thank you for having me. I'm excited about our relationship. This is a loving relationship.
Yes.
And I just speak life into you as you
Oh,
continue to grow and shine and become and offer your best self of service to other people. I pray that you always live in a bubble of kindness.
oh,
Yes.
that just gave me chills. I receive all of that, Dr. Beloved, and I return
Yes.
it back to you as well. And I love so much that we came across each other. This is one good thing about the internet is sometimes you find your people.
Yes, you
And,
find your people. And that's what
right?
you want, because life is about assignments, you
Yeah.
know, and we are, all of us are assigned to something or someone. And
Yeah.
it's our responsibility to discern that, decipher that, and then to create a place where that can grow and be fulfilled.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was beautiful. Dr. Beloved, I love you.
I
You're
love
coming on again soon. We're going to talk about that date. So everybody just know to keep a lookout. If you want to see Dr. Beloved come on again soon. And if you go to my website, CandaceHarperLoveCoach.com, and sign up for my free weekly newsletter, I'll send you a free copy of my ebook, 7 Days of Releasing Single Girl Shame. For those of you
you.
out
Yeah,
there who are shaming yourself for being single. We don't do that around here because we go through seasons. Sometimes we're in a season of single, sometimes we're in a season of coupled. Either way, we still got to keep growing, right?
absolutely. And take care of ourselves. Absolutely.
Yes, a hundred
Love you.
percent.
Thank you so much, beautiful.
Yes, thank you. Until next time, keep being unapologetically lovable. Give yourself grace, everybody. Mwah. And Dr. Beloved, I love you. Thank you.
Hey sis, I know you. You want to attract a partner who genuinely loves you as a woman. You want to break generational cycles and experience the fulfilling romantic relationships that your mother and maybe even your grandmother didn't have. You want to learn how to release the pattern of navigating your love life through past hurts, trauma, and abandonment issues. So I've made this easy to consume, effective digital course just for you. It's called A Love Life That Loves You Back. I'm Candace Harper, a relationship coach and hypnotherapist, and I would love to help you create that love life. Just go to bit.ly/loving relationships for WOC. Can't wait to see you there.